Now, thanks. Let's speak to Tom Harwood, who is a reporter for Guido Fawkes and the former leader of the student wing of Vote Leave, and the journalist and author Rachel Shabby. Hello to you both. Thanks for joining us. I've described this as a carnival atmosphere today. How would you describe it?
I think that's a very polite and generous way of putting it.
OK. What about
that bell's slightly irritating, isn't it?
Well, you should have been here a couple of weeks ago, trust me. But there doesn't seem to be the division that we have seen over the last few weeks. One wonders what will happen over the next few weeks once the Prime Minister loses this vote, which she will probably undoubtedly do tonight.
Yeah, I think there's no doubt that she'll lose. The question is by how much and what happens next. There are several paths that a big loss might move us down. Either, as the Foreign Minister for Germany suggested today, we might see a sort of an unpicking of the current withdrawal agreement, perhaps some more concessions to the British side. But on the other hand, there could also be some concessions to the Labour Party, and therefore staying more closely aligned to EU rules and regulations in the future. It could go one of two ways, and everything's quite up in the air at the moment.
Your thoughts on that, Rachel?
Look, we are where we are because of May's refusal to compromise over the last 2.5 years. She hasn't reached out, she hasn't built consensus, and she will lose this vote, as you say, quite significantly. And we keep saying that, and we forget how big a deal that actually is. For somebody who's predicted to lose by such a large amount over such a flagship issue and over something that is such a significant national issue. So you can see the opposition argument that if the Prime Minister is going to lose by that degree, she should really consider letting someone else have a go. But that notwithstanding, we are seeing with Parliament trying now to reconfigure and essentially take power away from the Prime Minister and say, well, look, you can't sort it out. You've had a go. We've given you a chance. You can't do it. Now let's see what we, Parliament, can do to try and resolve this mess.
Could she turn this in any way to her own advantage? 200 plus MPs say, I'm not going to vote with me. She goes back to Europe and says, look, you've got to give me something else. I can't get this through Parliament.
Well, that's certainly the hope of her backbenchers, that finally now, with a big defeat on the cards, she'll show that it's either this or no deal. I mean, what Number 10 are trying to say at the moment, obviously, is there's also the possibility of no Brexit. And obviously, players within the House of Commons, both backbench Tories and the Speaker and the front bench and backbench of the Labour Party are all conspiring to make different ways in order to generate more chaos, because obviously what the leader of the opposition wants right now is the most chaos possible to drive forward to a situation of a general election. I don't think that's healthy for the country. But similarly, there are about 11 backbench Tories who are now agitating for a second referendum, and the Speaker is helping them. So really we're seeing a total mess on our hands. But what the ERG are pushing for is those crucial concessions that might be what the European Research Group, that group of about 80-odd Tory backbenchers who are the more fervent Brexit supporters. And we did see a glimmer of hope this morning when the German Foreign Minister left the European Parliament, spoke to the press pool out there saying perhaps the withdrawal agreement could be opened up if there's a big defeat. And I think that's what everyone surrounding us today is hoping for, a big defeat for the Prime Minister, because her way has simply not proven to be good for anyone, whether you voted Leave or Remain. We can't stand in the middle of the road. We'll get hit by traffic on both sides.
What's Jeremy Corbyn going to do?
I mean, I think this conspiracy for chaos is a slightly unfair appraisal. Jeremy Corbyn has to be responsive to his party. And there is both a sequencing that he is so far following, but also there's a messaging issue, and I think that is where the divisions are starting to show. We haven't seen a significant change in public polling over the last 2.5 years. Now, you could say that's because Brexit hasn't happened. You could say it's because we're tribal and polarised over Brexit. But one element might also be that we have two main parties saying Brexit is both possible and is going to be okay. And that is where the division, I think, is opening up within the Labour Party, with a membership, the majority of whom do want a second referendum, and the leadership, in the sense that it's about the message that maybe now is the time to be a bit more honest with the public and say, yes, it is possible. Of course, Brexit is still possible, but any version, even a Labour version, is going to leave this country worse off. And yes, we can still do that, but let's be honest about what that means.
You're shaking your head. We've run out of time. Come back tomorrow when we know how the vote's gone, and we'll discuss this in more detail, if you don't mind. Thank you very much indeed. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it. Well, the amendments